Welcome to another episode of the Visser Podcast. Today we're going to discuss Ozempic and Mounjaro, two drugs that do weight loss. And the reason we're going to discuss this is because overweight and obesity are killers. And when we look at lifespan and we look at health span, both of those need to be brought under control. We need to have a good body weight. Okay, and really we can look at it two ways. We can look at it as being too fat, having too many fat cells, so overweight and obesity, and also looking from the other side, having too little muscle mass. Okay, and a lot of people will look at the muscle mass area, and I do too. Okay, and that's a huge concern because we need to up the muscle mass. Muscle mass and strength have shown to have direct correlations with how long we live, all-cause mortality, you name it, okay? Just better health and longer life, period, full stop. But today, with these drugs, we're really looking at, okay, with the people that really can't, have tried everything and cannot lose the weight. Having the weight is more dangerous than not having the weight, so we're gonna have to go drastic. And when we go drastic, we go and look at these two drugs. Now, these two drugs, Ozempic and Mounjaro, and this is their popular name, their brand, they are GLP-1 inhibitors, and the second one is a GLP-1 and GIP inhibitor, and we're going to see what the difference is. Both drugs help to manage type 2 diabetes by boosting insulin, curbing liver glucose release, and slowing stomach emptying. Reducing appetite and slowing stomach emptying is crucial. Okay, what does Mounjaro do differently? Mounjaro does all that, plus it suppresses glucagon, okay, which is a hormone, glucose hormone. So it has an extra benefit. So really, when we look at both drugs right off the bat, Mounjaro beats out Ozempic, but Ozempic still can do the job and is a little less expensive. So that's the bottom line. But why are we doing this? Why am I saying this? Why are we going through this? Because there's much more that you need to know about this. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to go through all three. All right. The reason we're going through this is because you have to know when you do these drugs, what the consequences are, what you need to be expecting, and what to do about it. All right, so we're going to have to do a little bit of deep dive. Stay with me. We're going to get through this, and then we're going to have the takeaways. All right, so when we look at Ozempic, right, which is the GLP-1 receptor agonist, it mimics essentially the gut hormones, okay, by enhancing fullness, lowering blood sugar, and this is good. This is why we're losing weight. Now, Mounjaro has a dual GIP and GLP-1 antagonist receptor. What that offers is an enhanced mechanism of appetite and blood sugar control. It's superior in that way from Ozempic. But really, before we go into this, let's go into the basics. And the basics are this: you need to lose weight, you can't lose weight. So this is one of the options. It's the end option. Okay, I'm running out of options. I'm considering doing gastric bypass, which I don't like. It's a huge procedure, and it has just, I'd rather you try this before even considering that. So what happens here? Listen, we have to talk about the hormones that control our weight, our appetite. And there's three big players, okay? There's ghrelin, which comes from the gut, which tells us, that gives us hunger, gives us appetite. And then there's leptin, which comes from fat cells, our own fat cells, that says, okay, enough. So leptin is like the police, the border control, and it's telling us, okay, you've had enough, you feel good, you feel full, okay, good. The third one that come into play is the stretch receptors of the stomach. The stretch receptors of the stomach tell us when the stomach's full, It takes a little bit. That's why I say always eat to 80%, and then in 15 minutes you'll be full, because it takes time for the stretch receptors to signal the brain to say, okay, we're stretched, we're full, it's done. Okay. So those are the three, and we're going to look at two more. There's a lot more, but I'm going to, just for brevity's sake and not to lose you in this episode, we're going to talk about those, all right, and how they interplay. Yes, weight loss and weight control is about calories in, calories out, but the small print is the hormone interplay. Okay, so we know one thing, right? We know leptin comes from the fat and is basically the police. Tells us to, okay, we're full, we don't need to eat more, we don't need more calories. However, when we're overweight or obese, leptin goes to sleep and ghrelin wreaks havoc. And that's why we keep consuming more. This is one of the problems we're seeing. And one of the problems where extreme overweight or obesity, these people just can't go on a diet. They can't keep a diet. They can't keep it down. They can't do it. So these are the guys. We're looking at above 25% BMI, where we're looking at, okay, these drugs come into play. And I know Hollywood has made it real sexy to use these drugs just to drop a couple of pounds. We really do it quick and easy, but that's not what it's for. And I highly suggest not to do it. Do it the old-fashioned way, all right? Because these drugs do have some side effects, which we're going to talk about. When we look at the signaling process, right, we got leptin, we got ghrelin. Ghrelin coming from the gut, leptin coming from the fat. And this is that controls your homeostasis. It controls where your body likes to be. Like you're at 100 kilos, or you're at 80 kilos, or you're at 70 kilos. That's where your body's happy. These two interplay to keep you there. Okay, so if you eat too much, it'll actually bring you back down. If you eat too little, it'll bring you back up. The signals go to the hypothalamus in the brain. The hypothalamus is really the control center of this. Okay, and I'm not going to go further than that, so easy. But I do have to say this. We are a product of our environment. And our environment is created through a great extent through media, social media and all media, but it's also created through the food industry. And the food industry has found a way to pass by the policing and the borders without getting detected. How does it do this? It does this by creating highly processed foods. Highly processed foods don't come with anything. They go through the system undetected and just fill us with calories, while not affecting leptin, not affecting ghrelin. Ghrelin, yes, keeps going up. And not only that, but liquid calories in alcohol and all the drinks that we drink, sugar drinks, the soda pop, all that stuff. All that stuff is calories going in that we don't sense. We don't know. We can do 1,000 calories coming in through soda pop and we don't even notice it. We're still hungry. This is the basis of the problem we're facing. As you can see, both of these things, they control what? They control insulin. They control glucose. This is where it happens, the sugar in our blood, right? This is the main problem we're dealing with. And this is the problem we're trying to resolve here. So now these two drugs that we found, that we've discovered, attacks specifically the appetite centers, the small intestines, GLP-1 and GIP. Okay, so that we feel full. They mimic this fullness, so we stop eating. The first problem is what I've talked about, is that once you have this, and normally what would we do? We would do a high protein diet. Why? Because protein comes with peptide YY. Peptide YY is also a satiety peptide. So when you eat protein, you feel full quicker. Not only that, but to break down protein, our body uses the most energy of any foods that we can consume to break it down. So internally, we're doing calories out with protein. With fat, not so. When we look at these highly processed foods, Nothing. When we look at liquids, nothing. All right? So there's no signaling happening to, hey, we're full. None of that. It just goes, and the calories just start mounting. Okay, so protein is one that we have to use, and it's critical for protein synthesis, for our muscles, for everything. So that's one. And if we look at carbs, if we look at whole grains and we look at whole carbs like fruits, vegetables, also good. They also have satiety. They use partially a stretch with the fibers, a stretch of the stomach, etc., the full feeling. That's why fiber is so good for us, because it gives us that whole feeling. It brings in the third factor, which is the stretch receptors of the stomach. Now, when we eat fat, we also get a receptor coming in, a hormone coming in, that is a short-acting one, and which is the cholecystokin. That gives us another feeling, but not as strong as protein. Okay, so keep this in mind because it's going to come up a couple of times here. So when we're taking these two, and the reason we're taking these two, listen, the reason we're taking these two is this. Being overweight and obese creates metabolic disease, chronic disease, even cancer, cognitive decline. It shortens lifespan, it shortens health span. Quality of life goes down. The mitochondria, which we talked about, engines of our cells, dysfunctional. DNA doesn't get repaired. Autophagy doesn't happen. Oxidative stress goes up with ROS. Inflammation goes up. All this leading to cancer. All this leading to heart disease. All this leading to strokes. All this leading to diabetes. And the list goes on. So we have to find a way to do this. Now, what we've seen with these two drugs, the good news is you will lose weight. And you got to count on doing it for 1 year. All right? Because all the research out there is based on 1 year, mostly 1 to 2 years. But 1 year it takes to lose above 20 kilos. Okay? That's a solid amount of weight. And you will lose that with this. But the side effects that can happen are these. One, that when you're taking this and it's mimicking this fullness, when you eat protein, you're going to feel double full. A lot of people on these drugs are going to start avoiding protein. They're going to start avoiding fats. And what they don't feel is alcohol consumption, is drinks, the stuff that goes undetected. Really watch out for that, because you're going to get like a taste for that. You're going to want that, all right? Because the rest is going to make you feel uncomfortable and full. So you have to know this and you have to do this. The other thing is, this is the bad. When you lose the weight, it's at best 50-50, meaning you're going to lose 50% fat and 50% muscle mass. And we do not want to lose muscle mass. So one of the things you have to do, is resistance training. Must when you're taking these drugs. It's a must, because you're going to lose muscle that is very, depending on what age you are, hard to come back, hard to bring back, okay? And this is your glucose sink. This is where you lose muscle and everything goes down the drain. We need to be careful with this. Normally, when we do a natural weight loss, when we do it with the way I explained it in the weight loss video, you can go back to the weight loss video, you're looking at 75% fat loss, maybe 25% muscle loss. And if you do it well, you can go 90-10. That's good. That's acceptable. This isn't. So you have to counteract. You're going to have to counteract it. Okay. Second one is this. We've seen now that after that year, or after 2 years, what we're seeing is that once they're done with this, a lot of these patients will gain back their weight or gain some of it back. And the problem there lies in this. They are not training themselves to do the work during the medication. They're just letting the medication do it. It's like they're thinking, this shot, and it's subcutaneous shot once a week, this shot will resolve all my problems. I don't have to do anything. No, you're going to have to do a lot of work. What happens is that once they get done with it, they either go back slowly to their old lifestyle. But The more sinister things that happen is that in the hypothalamus, something changes. And we're seeing that some of these patients really start craving fast food, craving sugars, craving sweets. And this is the danger. And this is a change. It could be a permanent change. So these cravings are super dangerous because they're going for the foods that do what? Pass border control, pass the police, and just pound us with calories. All right? These are the things we have to really look at. And then further studies are needed for this. But this is it. And this is why I say, only if you're in dire needs, do this. It works. It works. But you got to watch the muscle mass. And you definitely have to be ready to have a complete lifestyle change when you stop it after a year, because the cravings can come and will come, and this is detrimental. All right? So you have to go back to the basics of quality, lean protein, whole foods, vegetables, make sure your fiber's up and everything. Okay? Yes, they will drop your weight. Absolutely. 100%. Guaranteed. But you got to watch the bad and you got to watch the ugly. And that's it. I didn't want to go too deep. I can go way too deep sometimes. And with these peptides and these hormones, we can go extremely deep into mechanisms, into cellular level, subcellular level, what it does to DNA, etc., mitochondria. I'm not going there. I'm just telling you as short as I can about these two amazing drugs, but that have their side effects. See you next time. We're going to go on the vitamin stack next time. I'm going to tell you what to take in vitamins, what is proven, what you need to be taking, and what the minimum is, and where you can go for reverse aging, for slowing down aging, everything. They do make a huge difference. Stay tuned. Subscribe, ring the bell notification, tell your friends about this. I need to grow this channel. I need more subscriptions. Let's go. Let's get this to 1K subscribe. All right, I'm going to start doing giveaways too. Let's go. Let's do it. Have a great day. And remember, you follow me, you're going to have the best health, best life ever. So keep on it.